This episode is produced by Pet Fox Studios. Pet Fox Studios is a recording studio in Morris, Minnesota. Visit petfoxstudios.com for more information. Welcome to the Roasted Christian Podcast. This is Bobby.
And I'm John. Here at the Roasted Christian, we like our ideas the way we like our coffee. Roasted.
Welcome all listeners. Well, welcome's a hard... You're not really with me, so I can't really welcome you. But I know you're listening because... Is that like the tree in the woods thing? Like, if you are listening to this, I know you are there.
Are we getting existential within the first 30 seconds of this podcast,
Is
Bobby?
it existential or existential?
Existential.
I know. But you've been doing that to me a lot with the EEGs and the EXs and the ESs.
You have to discern whether it's existential.
Well, either way, thanks for listening. Appreciate you guys. We're now on episode 6. Yeah, we are. Today we got some coffee. Today we got some chit chat. Today we got a fresh roast topic, and then we're gonna introduce a new segment today that we haven't done before. And I'll give you a hint. It's about roasting things. That's what we do.
We're all about that roast life. So, Bobby,
about that roast.
I'm getting into frisbee golf.
Yes.
Disc golf.
Go.
Otherwise known as frolf.
And I really like it because I did ultimate a lot in college, and I really like disc golf.
I have one question.
Go. Is
there a certain type of person that plays? And do I want to be associated with that kind of person?
No, I don't think so. I think the people who... It's like regular golf. I mean... You do, some people do it when they can, when it's fun, when it's enjoyable, as an afternoon date, let's say, with your significant other, or just I think there's classifications in every sport, right? There's the ultra hipster individual who's going to be doing it. I'm going every day. I'm working to get better, and I'm hoping to join the pro circuit. Like that. There's that guy.
Yeah.
I don't think you're going to be that guy.
Nope.
No, but the casual player, like you would also say, play maybe casual golf. This is so much more accessible and cheaper.
Oh, for sure.
So this
like
makes
free cheap.
Yeah. So I think, excuse me, this is a. I don't think you're gonna become that guy.
All right.
And I don't think there is a person.
Oh, there isn't that guy that I won't become.
Well. So yeah, I just went back on that. So there is that guy, but there's that guy in everything.
That's true. Those guys are everywhere.
Yeah, we don't like that guy.
All that said, there's a lot more to the sport than I thought, in kind of a cool way.
Go.
Just looking at, I'm looking at upgrading some discs because I was given a set for Christmas and I never used them. And then like a few years later, finally got around to using them. And they're pretty cool, but they're not what I would go for necessarily in a first set trying to learn. They're they're specific and peculiar. So if I really mastered them, then maybe
But that's you though. You tend to do that for first, like you will research and then go get the peculiar thing.
If I'm going to go deep. But I don't know that I want to go deep with disc golf. Like I want to show up on a Saturday, play a few rounds, go home and enjoy myself. Okay. I don't know that I want to be like I don't know that I want to be, practicing, like you said, every other day or something to try to get better. And so I've been looking online and there's a lot of, it's crazy to me to think that you can mold a plastic a certain way to get it to fly a certain way, basically regardless of how you throw it.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting.
The more strict discs, anyway.
And there are ones where it's going to fly. So there are different terms. I'm going to throw out some nerd level Heiser and Anheuser type flights of disc golf discs, based on how hard you throw them. Mm-hmm. So this disc, if you throw it at a medium strength, one disc will Heiser, whereas opposed if you take that same disc and throw it at full force, it could Anheuser first and then Heiser.
Yep.
Or turn over first and then come back. It's really cool. I've watched a couple videos too. I tend to be leaning more towards that guy-ness of things. I tend to especially I think sports that are very individualistic.
Yeah.
Golfing, bowling, disc golf, things like that, where it's 100% your fault that you do poorly.
Bobby, are you just an independent man in your
I don't
in your
like
manhood?
blaming other people for.
All right.
That's not right. I don't like. I like blaming other people for things. I don't like. Well, I do like it sometimes, but it stinks when there's an activity that is dependent upon other people's skill, and if they don't,
especially when they suck.
and when they suck, it's no good, right?
Yep.
I don't like. I played baseball in college. I love lots of team sports. I love playing volleyball. Things like that. But there's something about an individual sport where like I can do everything that I put into this is what I will get out of it.
Yep.
And I really like that element of it. So I really like disc golf a lot. So yeah, watch videos, but yeah, it's fun.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of fun, and I like the fact that it's outdoors. I don't like the fact that it can't be year round. That's why I really like bowling. Bowling
Sure.
can be year round.
Although they do make discs with a really floppy, grippy rubber plastic for winter months.
Really?
I don't know if it's still possible in our kind of winter or if they're talking like.
So do we need to try this though?
Maybe.
That would be kind of
Because
interesting.
apparently the really, really floppy ones will stiffen a little bit in the cold. Yeah. It's sorry about that. But it will handle like a normal disc would in the summertime.
Interesting.
Where a normal disc in the wintertime will be like a sheet of metal.
Yeah. Yeah, I recommend anybody who even casually plays, at least go on the internet and browse a couple videos about how disc golf actually fly and how you should at least try to throw them. Because if you go just casually and be like, well, I played Ultimate, in college or whatever, and you go throw a disc golf just normally like you would an Ultimate disc,
It's going to be weird.
you're going to really hate disc golf. You're like, this is hard. This is frustrating. I don't like to play. Just learn a couple things about, one, how you're supposed to throw, because it's different.
Mm-hmm.
Two, how discs are going to behave. They don't behave like an Ultimate disc, and every disc is different. So you got to learn a little bit about which discs you have.
High speed stability, low speed stability, speed rating, fade rating, glide rating. It's ridiculous.
And even the casual person, I would say you can condense that down to, if I throw this as hard as it can, what's its behavior going to be? Is it going to hyzer, which is like if I'm right-handed, is it going to curve to the left? Or is it going to anhyzer, which is top off?
The hyzer is the outer edge of the disc from the way you hold it pointing down. Mm-hmm. And anhyzer would be the outer edge pointing up.
Yeah.
So for a lefty, it's opposite of the right.
Yep. So, yeah, I think you should go a little bit deeper. And
maybe I will.
And throw it a little bit harder. I've played with you. You gotta bend your. It's like you're so stiff. You gotta bend your back and your waist and your knees a little bit. Get a little bit more athletic position.
It's literally all in the hips. And I've actually been working on my approach.
Good.
So there's a thing called an XStep, 4-step XStep.
Yep.
That I didn't know how to do before. So I would do like a weird little crow hop and then chuck it, and it works a little bit like for football and like regular frisbee. But basically,
you were doing
the faster.
I saw a mouse in the living room step, and you jumped out of the way. That's a little bit of what you're.
Basically, the faster, like per mile, 1 mile per hour faster that you can be moving by your release time on the disc, I think is like 10 to 15 feet farther.
Wow.
For every increment. So if you can get down your steps and like put some momentum into that thing before you release, you're golden.
Yep. So I have a sore throat. I've been coughing for like a week. Finally got to sleep in my bed for the first time in 5 days.
Yay.
So I can actually lay down and sleep for the first time instead of trying to sit up in the couch. That's my chit-chatness, I guess. We have on here our list like Gary Johnson. I don't want to talk about this Yahoo.
Okay, we're not talking about Gary Johnson.
No, I'm done.
But vote for him if you want.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, as far as the timeline for the listeners, Trump just received his nomination last night from the RNC convention, and Yeah, I got nothing to say.
I didn't listen. Some people who are fans were like, yay, he's awesome. Some people who aren't fans are like, oh my goodness, he just sounded like a dictator.
Yeah.
So take that what you will.
Yeah. Hopefully we'll be getting a guest on soon who is a Trump supporter, and we can actually find out
What's the deal?
What's the deal? So, what are we drinking today, John?
Today is a Kenya Peaberry, also known as a Kenya Nyeri Kagunyu Peaberry. Peaberry is a specific type of coffee bean. They're generally smaller and rounder instead of like they've got that flat edge.
Mhm.
These are like, they kind of look like peas actually. And then when you roast them, they expand quite a bit. So it's weird because they sound different even. Like you rattle them in the canister and they sound different. So I'm not sure what all is going on with that, but it's definitely distinctive from your typical coffee bean. The description on this is caramel sweetness, tart blackberry, cranberry juice, rindy citrus, and coconut milk. Intense sweetness, fruited notes. So I noticed, because I smelled it right after I got done roasting, and they smell a little bit like the smoke is still coming off of them, and so it's not a perfect example of what they smell like. But when I was roasting, to me it smelled like blueberry pancakes.
Yeah, this definitely has a fruity, fruitier note to it, as you noted with fruited notes.
Yeah, fruited notes. Oh yeah, this is not my description, by the way.
Yeah.
I would feel way too pretentious trying to put all these descriptions down, but this is from Sweet Maria's, and they cup all of their coffees and put out a description. So I tried to stay closer to like a city plus or a full city than darker on the scale to try to bring out some of the fruit, and I think it worked.
Yeah, again, John, you're giving me stuff I enjoy. I haven't had a cup that you've roasted that I have not liked. I mean, this goes down really easy. It's not. Yeah, this is a very. Maybe I would put this more in the not too exciting category.
Okay.
This isn't one that's gonna like, ooh, yeah, that's got some flavor. You know, it's just like. I taste some fruit, but I'm also like with my beers now, I'm getting out of the fruitiness. Like, okay, I'm done with the fruit flavors in our beers.
Sure. Let's
get to not even more hoppy, but more bitterness.
Bitter but not hoppy?
Yeah, not bitterness. That's not what I want.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what I want yet. But I do know.
That's okay.
Yeah, I do know I
You're allowed
much prefer
to not know what
traditional German. I'm preferring traditional German style beer.
Yeah.
As more recently. So, anything else on our chit chat?
I mean, I saw a cool movie yesterday.
Ooh, but good reviews for Star Trek Beyond, by the way. I've been hearing. Yeah. Okay. I am really excited for going to see some more Star Trek.
I'm a little concerned that it will be just another Star Trek movie, which is fine. It just means I'm not going to be super hyped.
Well, what defines just another Star Trek movie?
Something we've more or less seen before.
What movies is not something you've seen before?
The movie I saw last night.
Okay, what did you see last night?
I'm going to save that for the roasted review, actually.
Okay.
That'll be the segment at the end.
Okay. All right. Well, I like Star Trek a lot, so I've seen just
I have no problems with Star Trek.
Yeah, I know, but you're way more a Star Wars fan than you are a Star Trek fan.
This is true.
I'm on the fence on both as far as which one I like more.
How uncomfortable?
I'm not even going to go there. Okay, so Star Trek is I can't go there. I'm really looking forward to this movie because I think Simon Pegg wrote this.
Okay.
And he's a Star Trek nerd.
Yeah.
But he also, from the reviews I'm reading or hearing and reading so far, is that this does not do the overpay homage to traditional Star Trek stuff.
Oh, so maybe it won't be.
It doesn't overdo that. Now they do have some certain segment, like you got to do the gotta do's to make it still feel Star Trek-y.
Gotta do those.
But it's not a Like, this feels like a standalone thing, they were kind of saying. This felt more standalone. It didn't feel more... actually, what traditional Star Trek fans kind of... What they rip about other movies is that they're action-packed. Like, the latest movies, especially the J.J. Abrams movie, they ripped him for being like, this is an action movie.
Right.
And they
Which I
want
think
more
actually,
of these slow progression movies.
The same thing could be said, actually, for the reboots. Well, not the reboots, but the prequels and the Episode 7 of Star Wars.
Yeah. You think episodes... that is more action-packed.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. But doesn't that make it more standalone? Being...
Like, stand out?
Yeah. Well, not... I don't know. We'll get into more of the reviews about why I think some of the older movies were poor in Star Trek was how slow progressing they were.
Okay.
We're going to talk about that with another movie today. So let's just dive in, should we?
Yeah, let's do this.
All right. We're going to start the fresh roast. So, what are we going to talk about today, John?
Well, what... Masculinity.
Yeah, what do we want to talk about it? Or at least start, because I think we're going to talk about the subject probably multiple times.
Yeah,
there's going to be so many different ways that we can talk about this, so many different angles, so many different...
Yeah.
This is a big topic, especially in contemporary Christian circles.
Right. It's maybe not the most like hot button issue right now, but it usually comes up and around pretty frequently. And it seems like there's a lot of ambivalence, I guess, as far as like what role should a man play? What role should a Christian man play? Are those things different? How do we behave in a society that is bent in a good way, I would say, towards providing more liberties towards the female gender?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how do we comport ourselves? Do our definitions necessarily change because the definition of manhood in the past may have been oppressive to the female?
Sure, yeah. So, is there such thing as manhood or masculinity or even like being a man? I think contemporary culture would say that there are traditional cultural stereotypes of manhood and womanhood.
Mm-hmm.
While that's undoubtedly true, that statement in itself is undoubtedly true. There are traditional stereotypes of what it means to be a man and what it means to be a woman, right? Now, whether or not you are on the camp or uncamp of being able to choose your gender or gender inequalities, like different things like that, I think that's a little bit separate from the topic in some ways.
Sure.
We'll probably wind up going and talking about those certainly talking about those issues, about gender and things like that. But specifically when it just comes to manhood, is there really such thing as like what it means to like this person is a man and this person isn't a man?
So not as opposed to gender.
Not as opposed to gender, but
looking
like,
at maturity?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, well, I guess that's the question, right? Is there such thing as you understand what I mean when I say a man? Not like he someone who is tall.
Not a
and
male.
Not a male, but a man.
So this is
what makes a man a man?
A massively broad and not controversial, maybe controversial topic. I don't even know where to start. So, yes.
I think so.
I would say yes.
But I would just.
I would also say that our definitions have necessarily changed based on society.
So what are the traditional definitions of a man? What it means to be a man.
Right.
Let's talk about some of those.
Hardworking.
Yeah.
Tough.
Strong, yeah.
Yeah, strong.
Like your physique also is strong.
Right.
Yeah.
A
provider.
Yeah.
Would you say like sexually not just active, but
Viral?
Like, yeah, viral.
Virile? How do you say that word? Virile.
I don't know.
Virile? Is it virile?
I don't know.
That's a really weird word all of a sudden. You say virility.
Yeah.
Virile?
I don't know. Maybe.
That's one of those words, the more often you say it, the weirder it sounds. Virile?
Like
Virile? Virile?
The? Virile.
Virile.
Okay.
It is virile.
Okay. So, yeah, that athletic, not in touch with your emotions, right? Would you say that's one? Yeah.
So
yeah.
Our producer just cheered. Okay. So there are some things that I think are negatives in the traditional view.
Yeah. Well, we can get there, but let's keep listing some of them, right?
Right.
So, fearless.
But okay, so some I would maybe disagree with.
Yeah.
So are we talking about like what other people say that the traditional view of manhood is? Or are we just
biblical let's say just in general, you pull 1,000 or 10,000 men and women on the street and you ask them, what does it mean to be a man? Things they will commonly hear. This is the Family Feud question, right?
Right.
Things that will commonly come up. Strong, not in touch with their emotions, or don't show emotion. Maybe they're in touch with it, but they suppress it and don't show it.
Yeah.
Okay. Fearless. Maybe these are more like expectations of what it means to be a man.
I would call them exaggerations of what it means to be a man.
All right. Exaggerations of the traditional sense of what it means to be a man. He's fearless. He's athletic, successful, like with money, can make lots of money as a provider, has a wife and child.
Sure.
Right? You got to be able to procreate, show off that manhood. Speaking of that, so I had a family member on the day after my wedding who knew I was a virgin up until my wedding day.
Okay.
And after that night, we saw them before we left for our honeymoon, and he said, "So, you're a man now, huh?" That was his perception of like, you've finally done the deed, therefore you're a man now. Yeah. What other kind
Does
of
that
thing?
just speak for itself?
It speaks for itself. Like, and I would say possibly of this individual having that mindset is you're like, oh, that's obviously what that goes in line with everything else that is consistent with their life. Like, what it means to be a man is to be sexually active and to basically dominate. Like, you're a dominator of whatever you want, your own desires. So you go and do that, and that's kind of clear or indicative of his life choices, I would say, is what he thinks what it means to be a man has come across in a lot of those possibly life choices. Good or bad or indifferent, I don't know. But if I were here to roast it, I would say I would think that's less manly than what it actually means to be a man.
Yeah, well, I mean, clearly we don't see that as a definition scripturally.
Yeah.
Let's be real. I mean, yeah, we are commanded to be fruitful and multiply, but those who don't are not
less man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Let's talk about. Yeah. I mean, you can clearly take examples from Scripture of individuals who were celibate, and you would not consider them, well, that he's less of a man because he didn't have sex with a woman.
Right. So, okay. So the interesting thing is, for me, and I don't have this in my notes, so who knows where it'll go, but King David versus Jesus.
Who's more of a man?
Who seems manlier?
Who seems manlier?
Yeah.
To whom?
I don't know.
To me? Or to the world? Or to
both.
Christendom?
Yeah, I don't know. Okay, so
Christendom will use David, I think, a lot more.
Really?
Yeah, I think so.
See,
so when they first go,
I think you have
what does
to
it mean
do
to be
this.
a man? They're like David the warrior. Right?
Well, right,
David,
but if it's multiple choice and Jesus is one of the answers, you have to pick Jesus.
Quote of the day.
Yeah.
You have to pick Jesus. But if you had to fill in the blank.
Right. Who is the manliest person in Scripture?
Phrasing it exactly that way, I think people are going to say David.
Sure. Why?
because of our
'Cause he-
preconceived notions
He
of what it
killed
means to be-
people like a boss.
Yeah.
He had lots of wives.
Yeah.
Oh wait, but he sang the Psalms with a harp or something.
Yeah. He was really sorry. But okay, so I'm not gonna bash Dave.
Next on our roast, we're gonna roast King David.
I think my feet are touching the fire a little bit. David obviously was a man after God's own heart. I think that is a massive element of what it actually means to be a man.
No question.
The traditional view of manhood has a lot of the elements, I would say, are the intrinsic elements of male nature, of like conquest and action
Sure.
and adventure and leadership.
Mm-hmm.
I think David is one of those quintessential examples.
Yeah.
And he, not only was he a warrior, a strong warrior, he was a smart warrior in a lot of ways. He made some mistakes, obviously. He committed adultery and committed murder.
Mm-hmm.
But he was really after God's own heart. So when it comes to, but phrasing it like you said, like back to your question, manliness. Most manly. How did you phrase it? The manliest man.
Yeah.
The manliest man in all of Scripture. I think mostly because of he was a king and he was a warrior, and he was a patriarch, the founding of kings in the lineage of Jesus.
Yep.
I think that's what people would pick as a man.
All
from
right.
Scripture.
So I'll advocate the postmodern, maybe atheistic, I don't know, humanistic, put it that way, side of that, and say, okay, so we tend to think of David as the manly man because, like you said, he's a king, he's on top, he gets to dominate, he can do whatever he wants, he has all the power.
Yeah.
Like he's basically invulnerable.
Yeah.
And is that a misrepresentation of David's manliness? Is that a fair accusation, or is that, I don't know, is that a misunderstanding of why men desire maybe that position?
Yes. I would say this. One, if men are saying in their heart, in order for me to be a man, there are elements of David's life I need to replicate. Otherwise, I will not fully get there.
Mm-hmm.
I need to lead. I need to dominate. I need to conquer. I think those are, in some aspects, false and will distort your calling as a man of God, as a person of God, as a follower of God. I think it can distort you. Because you're also possibly not seeking joy and pleasure in the process,
right?
In the journey of where God's leading you, and you're only going to accept joy in once I finally conquest. Once I'm finally there.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean you can't aspire
motives,
to being a better man. But I think if we say, listen, if you don't do kind of things like David does, then you're not a man yet.
Right.
That's bad in my mind.
Yeah, kind of a tangent, but it makes me think of Simba in The Lion King when he's singing his song. He's like, "Oh, I just can't wait to be king."
Yeah.
It's like, well, is that really like the end goal? Is that what it's all about? Not really.
Not really, but, Simba's calling was to be king, though. I mean, right?
Yeah.
So.
Okay, so was it... this is getting way
This
off.
is okay, though. This is why we're here.
Yeah. Okay, so he wants to be king, and he's meant to be king. So is it good for him to want to be king because he's meant to be king? And if he wasn't meant to be king, is it bad for him to want it? Because Scar wanted it, and he couldn't have it.
Yes.
But the desire essentially was the same.
Yes.
So obviously in the story, we know who is good and who is bad.
Yeah.
But apply that, I guess, to the modern man in his aspirations for
Presidency?
Ooh. I was going with greatness, but you one-upped it.
Well, let's think about that. Is it fair for every man to say, I want to aspire to be the president of the United States? Because that is what it means to be great. I can't wait to be king. Should every boy aspire to be president? Should every boy aspire to be...
I guess I can see two sides in that.
Yeah, you can, can't you?
Because I think it's good to encourage.
Yeah, this is weird.
Chris
Rock used to have a bit where it was about like, you can the sky might be your limited dream, or like, what is it? The limit's the sky. You know, sky's the limit, right? Sky's the limit, but the limit's the sky. Like, don't go past that cloud. You can't dream that far.
Sure.
Like, stay down here.
Yeah. Yeah, so I was going to say it's good to encourage ambition. And then I thought about that and I'm like, but is it? Like, am I confused? Okay, so if that is like, so I'm a Christian man in society. Okay. Is that the typical confusion that comes when society's goals or even traditional manhood is mixed with the biblical definitions that we find like in Jesus' Beatitudes? Like, to what extent are we called to self-sacrifice versus have our own ambitions? And maybe those things aren't mutually exclusive.
No, yeah. I don't know. It's a good question because, yeah, I can see where you were getting at. Like, you have young boys. You have 3 young boys.
You want to be an astronaut? Go be an astronaut.
Yeah, there's certainly an element of, I want you to dream. I want you to dream big, and I want you to work hard for that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I also want you, A, to listen to the Holy Spirit, B, understand what God's calling is in your life, find out your giftings, and pursue God the most. Mm-hmm. If we make our idol our dreams versus what God has in store for us, even if you succeed in your dreams, you fail.
Yeah.
Right? Dreams and what God has for you aren't always mutually exclusive. So I'm not saying that. Like, if you have a dream, it's opposed to God and you shouldn't follow your dreams. I'm not saying that. I'm saying put your heart in the right spot and position yourself so that way he can change your heart to his desires, right? Delight yourself in the Lord and he will give you the desires of your heart.
Right.
So position yourself in a way that you are receiving from God what it means to be something, what it means to be you.
Right.
And that includes manhood. What does it mean to be a man? Position yourself and position your heart in a way that you are receiving from God himself what it means to be a man, or what it means to be a woman, or what it means to be you. So
maybe
but I would also encourage my kids, like, I don't think, if I felt like their dream was like wackadoodle, right? It depends on the age, right? 6 is different than 16.
Yeah.
If they're 16 and they're no good at baseball and they say, Dad, I want to be the shortstop for the New York Yankees. You say, son, I love you. You're not going to be the shortstop for the New York Yankees. Read a book. Like, you suck at sports, read a book.
Buy a pocket protector.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Get used to how to calculate things. I think there's an element of being realistic with people too.
Sure.
Because it's unloving to be like, yeah, pursue it, and then you sit back and you go, boy, do they suck. Like,
right.
I want to be the greatest singer in the world, and you're like, no one can take your voice.
Yeah.
It is awful.
Self-awareness goes a long way.
Yeah.
What I was going to say with you talking about kind of ambition and, delighting in the Lord, is I think the ideal Christian man then takes the ambition that's been put inside of him, the drive to maybe dominate, but just succeed and have adventure, and apply that to going deep in God and kind of putting that as the priority. Yeah. And then those other things will follow after.
They have to.
It's just about a matter of prioritizing.
Yes. Priority is that is an element that reaches into a whole lot of spheres of problems that I think maybe society has had for all time, is priority.
Yeah.
Idol worship is a priority problem, right? And you can say it
Boom.
all stems from the heart, right? So we can say, yeah,
That's
it's
a quote right there, man.
Yeah,
Idol worship is a priority
it's a
problem.
priority problem. You have the wrong priority. You're worshiping the wrong thing.
Yep.
And so whenever who C.S. Lewis, doesn't he say, like, you only get second things by putting first things first?
Yep.
So it makes the most sense that if you want to learn what it means to be a true man, if you want to learn what it means to be a true woman,
A worman,
pursue God, right?
Yeah, man.
That's the number one thing you got to do. Pursue God. And but the problem is we're in conflict a little bit with the world. People who don't believe in God will be like, well, I'm not going to pursue something that doesn't exist. So how again are you going to define for me what it means to be a man? Do we have to cater to, or how do we communicate to a world that doesn't believe in God, or people that don't believe in God, about what it truly means to be who they are? Maybe that's for a different episode.
Yeah, that might be a can of worms.
Yeah.
To be opened later. I will say that I think modeling goes a long way. And when the world looks at the Christian society and they see husbands and fathers act the same way as heathen husbands and fathers, there is the proof is in the pudding.
Yeah.
Like, what is actually happening?
Yeah. There's definitely a difference between a boy and a man, and there are definitely old boys.
Yes.
And Christian
You don't
old
get to
boys.
manhood just by having another birthday.
Yeah. Or having more hair on your chest.
Well, no, just kidding.
So when it comes to masculinity, this is not fully roasted yet. We have a lot to talk about this, I think.
Yeah.
There's some good articles out there on the Christian point of view about manhood, and some bad articles on the Christian point of view on manhood. There's some good stuff about some secular sites out there that are talking about what does it mean to be a man in today's society, and there's some good stuff in there, and there's some bad stuff in there. I think we need to talk about this more and get a clearer picture about what does God say about what does it mean to be a man. What does the world say does it mean to be a man? Is there conflict there, and how do we reconcile that? How do we as Christian men still stir within other men the right qualities, what their calling is in life?
Yeah.
You know? So,
well,
we need your help. If you have an idea, here, your call to action. People who are listening, what does it mean to be a Christian man, and do you think there's any conflict in what it means to be a worldly man? Please comment on Facebook, hit us up on Twitter, and let us know, what does it mean to be a Christian man? What does it mean to be a worldly man? Is there a difference?
I would say probably the biggest obstacle with Christian manhood and worldly manhood, and maybe that's just the traditional definition, is the emotional side of things.
But I would say the more modern definition of worldly manhood, and we say this worldly manhood versus Christian manhood, please understand we have to give it a term. Just go with us here. That is changing, right?
Yeah, well,
It's
I think it's changing all the time.
To be way more in touch with our emotions, because that's an element of how we are relational with everyone else.
Yeah, and that's not a bad evolution. I do think, though, that there's still the stigma or whatever with, like, the male telling himself, I'm not going to cry, I'm not going to cry, I'm not going to cry, just because there is that. And I don't know, maybe that's inherent. Maybe no matter how much our definitions change, that's still going to be our default, like, stiff upper lip, whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's important for me to cry.
Mm-hmm.
I cry at movies. What was the last movie you cried at?
Oh, boy. To be honest, I tend to shy away from those movies because I know it's going to happen, and I'm not a big fan of it.
Yeah.
I cannot remember.
That's another Facebook call to action. Men out there, write down, what was the last movie you cried at?
I think I know. I saw Brooklyn,
Okay.
which just came out. I think it won some Academy stuff this last year. Saoirse Ronan is the star in that, and she's an Irish immigrant to the States. Meets an Italian guy, falls in love, comes back to Ireland because of family emergency stuff, is starting to get sucked back into the Irish way of life, finds somebody over there who is, eligible, and is just basically torn between two identities.
Yeah.
And I think they played it up a little bit. I mean, there's all the sappy strings and, long gazes and stuff. But it was a really well-made movie, and I definitely teared up.
So I know the movie I cried at last.
Okay.
It is called About Time. It's a 2013 movie with Rachel McAdams. And for those who haven't seen it, spoiler alert, it's kind of coming up.
It is 3 years old, so.
Yeah. It at the end of the movie, there's actually, this is not a love story between a man and a woman. It actually turns out to be a story between a father and a son.
Okay.
And the connection that this father and son has over time, and how they have to say goodbye. Geez, I'm already like I feel it in me right now to cry. Yeah, I was bawling. Both Whitney and I, when we watched it, I was like, okay, we both looked at each other and went, we're never watching that movie again. Yeah, it destroyed me. There was definitely an element of, wow, I am hurting on the inside. So that was the last movie I cried at. Was About Time.
Inside Out got me pretty good.
I didn't cry at all.
Really?
At that movie. Everybody told me like, oh man, it's gonna hurt. You're gonna be feeling it.
Yeah.
And it's the scene. All right, spoiler alert again. Right when the imaginary elephant dies in the end.
No.
Or that's
that
not the
not
part you cried at.
No, why would I? He's an annoying little imaginary.
Oh, that got so many people at that moment because that was the childhood sacrificing to go away in order for the continuing on in maturity of the adolescent.
Didn't get me.
Okay, what part got you in?
Okay, so it was basically the whole the emotional tension without any communication between the parents and the girl. So like when she finally decides to leave and they're like just totally oblivious because they're not paying attention at all.
That part made you cry?
Yeah, I was like, "Oh man," cuz I could see it happening. Like that was probably the most realistic part of the whole movie.
Oh my word, John, you got some hurt.
Oh yeah.
Oh man. Wow. I just blew past that. Yeah, but I blew past the whole movie.
There you go.
Like I looked at I don't know who we were watching with. Maybe it was my mother or somebody. And when the elephant went down, they were
I don't know that I could mourn the death of someone named Bing Bong. I mean, that's the stereotypical manly part of me that's like, no.
Yeah, I didn't cry at that at all. I didn't cry at the movie. I liked it, but I didn't.
Yeah, it was a great movie, but
all right. So Masculinity, well, I said that really poorly. You are temporarily roasted?
For the time being.
For the time being.
You're getting the slow roast. The long, slow roast.
All right. Well, let's hit up our segment for today. This is going to be called the Roasted Review. We're each going to take a thing to review, and today it's going to be movies. Sometimes we'll do books. John will probably do more books than I because I don't read things.
Wow.
I'm going to try to read more, though.
Okay.
But we're going to do some movies. John, I see that your movie is Ex Machina. Now, this is interesting because I've thought about, I've seen this all over, Netflix or Amazon Prime or something. And I'm like, maybe I could watch this, and I just never have gotten around to it.
Yep.
So, should I watch this movie?
All right, here's the thing. I'm going to... There's very little I can roast about it, actually. which is why I wanted to do it. Because originally I was going to roast Alien 3.
Okay.
Because I just watched Alien 3 and the production quality was crap. And it was the first Alien movie to really use CGI, and that's also crap. And basically they use the exact same story as the first two, which makes the third one crap. So that's basically the mini roast so that I can talk about a movie that I really liked.
All right.
Okay.
Let's pause for a minute. I totally got to take a...
Are we going?
All right.
Okay. Ex Machina. One, I like the actors. Oscar Isaac is the main... He's like a CEO, reclusive CEO of this gigantic...
Are you alerting it for me a little bit?
No.
Okay.
I'll try not to.
Okay.
I'm
probably not going to watch it, so you can.
All right. Well, you just asked if you should. So
okay,
you already made your decision.
Well, should
guess.
I? Should I watch this?
There's a lot of nudity.
Okay.
Like a lot.
Okay.
And ostensibly they're robots.
Mm-hmm.
So
that makes it okay, right?
Yeah. So you can look at robot boobs, whatever. Unfortunately, I think it's an integral part of the downfall of the main character and maybe men in general.
Oh, sure. He falls in love with the robot or sexually in love with the robot?
And the viewers.
Man.
Because we're literally so distracted that we don't understand what's going on.
Oh, weird.
And so, yeah, the movie it uses things that I wouldn't prefer to have seen in the movie.
Okay.
To set up an absolutely brilliant reveal and then an utterly devastating conclusion.
Oh, now I really want to watch it, but with my eyes closed.
Right. So, okay. So, Oscar Isaac and Domhnall Gleeson are the two main characters, and they're great. It's a really sparse movie. It's a really creepy movie, music-wise. Things just build very strangely for no apparent reason. There's a little bit of language. It's not too bad. But it basically deals with the idea of AI.
Okay.
Domhnall Gleeson is taken to this guy's estate to basically be the human component in the Turing test for this AI that he's built.
Sure.
And things get weirder and weirder and weirder, and it's awesome.
Huh.
Like it's
all right.
It's kind of a well-kept secret how good this movie is. It's not very flashy at all. It's really not until the credits are rolling that you're like, I think I just saw an awesome movie.
Huh.
So, definitely take it my recommendation with a grain of salt because, like I said, there's a lot of nudity. All of the AI machines are women.
Okay.
And that's on purpose because tech guys are men.
Yep.
I mean, that's just kind of the way that society rolls. So there's a little bit of societal commentary.
Yeah.
And artificial intelligence commentary
interesting.
Built in there.
Okay.
So that's my roasted review.
All right. Mine is going to be on a classic. 2001, A Space Odyssey.
Oh, man.
Okay, so I saw this movie, I think in the winter. And I absolutely hated this movie. I thought it was just the worst. Now, I'm a big sci-fi nerd. I love sci-fi movies. Growing up, you kind of, when you think of, if you've never seen it, you at least know about 2001: A Space Odyssey because you have heard things about like HAL the computer. Like, good morning, Dave. What are you doing, Dave? Like you hear, those are the quotes and those are the like images and pictures, the red dot computer that you think about if you even haven't seen the movie. So expectation going in is this is going to be a cool, like the robot, the AI computer is going to do stuff to Dave and what's going to happen with Dave, you know, like that's the movie. Okay, so this is total spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't seen it.
But you've had a lot of time to see it.
Yes, you've had a lot of time, like 40 years. So let's, the beginning of the movie starts with an incredibly long ape scene. 4 billion years ago, we were apes, okay?
Whoa.
So we got some apes. There's like a little clan of apes that's battling another clan of apes for literally a puddle of water. And then this like weird out of the sky comes this big gray slate rectangle. It's probably 10 feet tall, maybe in a 1.5 foot thick, and about 4 or 5 feet wide. Okay, and that's all it is.
Is it an alien mummy?
Nope, just a gray rectangle.
Oh, okay.
Slams into the ground, right? Well, you don't even see that. You're just like, bing, it's there. It's like,
it was 40 years ago.
Yeah. So this, so the ape scene just goes way too long. Way too long. Now, I understand earlier movies. My attention span is not there for traditional movies and how long they develop things. But here's the problem. There is nothing that is developed in this scene at all. It really doesn't contribute at all. That scene could have taken 30, 40 seconds. Like 4 billion years ago, that let's say there are apes, and then ding, there's this alien thing that comes down. Like, where did that come from? Boom, cut to the future. Like, immediately you could have done that and just left the suspense of like, what is going on? Everything about the movie takes A, way too long. B, doesn't actually bring you anywhere. They don't develop really any characters. I felt it was done actually really poorly. The quality of, to me, I expect that movies bring an audience somewhere, that either it's toward like an understanding of injustice or entertain you with laughter or awe, but it's like supposed to invoke an emotional response in you.
Sure. Or at least have some themes.
Something. The only emotional response I got of it was, what the F was that? Such... Excuse me. I'm getting choked up here. It felt like there was no point. The ending to the movie was the weirdest thing I've ever seen. So basically, the Dave guy, he's able to eventually destroy Hal the computer because he's on this journey to find out what's going on with this slate thing that they found. And he is basically transported to another dimension where he's instantly in this weird, like, old room. It's an all-white room with, like, a 1600s king bed, and furnitures that's kind of representative of like a castle in the 1600s or something like that. And he's like, what am I doing here? He's still in his astronaut suit, and then he looks, and then he sees himself out of the astronaut suit eating food at the table, and he's older. Then all of a sudden, you're now in the perception of the older dude, and he looks back, and guy in the astronaut suit's not there anymore, and he's kind of like questioning, like, well, how the heck did I just get here? And he's eating a little bit of the food, and then he looks over to the bed, and there's him in the bed, way old, just about to die, and he's like, what the heck just happened there? And now you're going from the perspective of the guy in the bed, and the guy in the chair is not there anymore. And the guy in the bed is now dying, and he looks and he sees the slate thing is now at the foot of the bed. And then all of a sudden, he sees himself as an embryo.
Oh, man.
Then the embryo is floating in space, looking at Earth. And then the movie ends.
So is this one of those movies that you need to be an absolute genius to appreciate?
No. And
or are they just pretending that that's the sort of movie that it is?
No.
Neither?
Stanley Kubrick is quoted of saying about what is the point of the movie? And his response was, you are free to speculate as you wish about the philosophical and allegorical meaning of the film, and such speculation is one indication that it has succeeded in gripping the audience at a deep level. But I don't want to spell out a verbal roadmap for 2001 that every viewer must feel obligated to pursue or else fear he's missed the point. I think he's missed the point.
Burn.
You need to tell me where you're trying to send me.
Yeah.
Leaving an open, well, it's open to interpretation. Well, then you're lazy.
Yeah. I really appreciate Christopher Nolan because a lot of his endings are intentionally ambiguous. But there was things in the whole movie that brought you somewhere that's true. It's not 100% open ended.
The whole movie is like 100% what the heck was going on.
Yep.
2001 Space Odyssey. I do not recommend anyone waste 3 hours of their life watching this movie. I
You've
highly
been
recommend you
roasted.
don't do it. Yeah. All right. So this has been the Roasted Christian Podcast. I'm Bobby.
I'm John.
Thanks for listening.
You're welcome.